Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to discuss that how India has backed the Seti hydropower project. This topic is of extreme importance from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains paper 2nd and 3rd. So let's begin with the various topics that we are going to cover under this. These are the many topics that we are going to discuss step by step. The more emphasis from the perspective of prelims will be on the Seti project as well as the river Seti, just the brief factual information. Background and India's role is analytical. Also, India-Nepal power relations, energy relations that we are going to discuss in detail along with diplomatic relations and the challenges as well as the way forward. Also, I will give you a pre-based question from the perspective of prelims examination. This is a previous year question that we are going to solve today. So, what is the news? The news is that India has backed the West Seti hydropower project, and this is because China ended its relationship with Nepal over this project only, and that engagement, whatever China had with Nepal, was only for 6 years. So officially it was from 2012 to 2018. In 2018, China said that we cannot carry on with this project because of certain inconveniences, and after that, after many informal talks did begin much earlier, and informal talks began in April when Prime Minister Deoba visited India. And after that, what happened that in May, he made it very clear in the local elections that it's better to give this project to India for a reason. I will tell you why. And after that, when in May itself, on 16th May, when the Prime Minister visited Lumbini, formal talks started to begin after that. Okay, and now India has secured this project. Let us see a bit about the West Seti project. But before that, let us know a bit about the West Seti river basically. Seti is a tributary of Karnali river. Okay, and it makes spectacular gorges in the Mahabharata range. Also, it originates from the south of the Himalayas. So we do not have to be worried about the quantity of water because many perennial rivers and they of course originate from the glaciers of the Himalayas, and because of that, just remember that it drains the western part of Nepal. Okay, so you see that basically it's on the south side of Himalayan mountains. The climate is monsoon climate, and because of the melting of ice and snow in May, the water in the river, the amount of it increases. Precipitation data has shown that 28% of the rainfall in Seti river basin, it occurs during the non-monsoon period. So you see, monsoon period gives a lot of rainfall to Seti, water to Seti, and non-monsoon period 28%, good amount. From May to June, southwest monsoon brings the rainfall, and according to data from precipitation stations in the basin, annual precipitation is between 1266 mm to 2178 mm. Data is not important, just know the magnitude of it. So if we talk about the Seti project, hydropower project, it's West Seti storage hydroelectric project. That means generating energy, electricity through the help of hydropower, power of the water. Sector is hydropower. It is a storage type hydropower project. Installed capacity is 750 megawatts. So this data can be asked in UPSC. Although the next set of data may not be asked, but who knows what can UPSC do. So it's in the Sudhur Paschim. Okay, and project location is Bajhang, Doti and Datil Dura district. Also, West Seti project is proposed to develop on Seti river, which is located in Sudhur Paschim province of Nepal. Okay, and it is to be developed at Doti and Bajhang districts. Remember that these three names, it could be asked in prelims. We do not have to take any sort of risk. We have to crack prelims. Moving on. Now, the proposed dam of the West Seti hydropower station is located between two regional faults, and this regional fault is because of the movement of the plate of India towards the Eurasian plate, and such faults are the major ones which are formed by Indian plate moving towards the Nepal-Tibet plate. Okay, so because of the plates, fault lines occur, and this is a highly tectonic area. One of the challenges is going to be to maintain this project in such a manner it does not disturb the tectonic activity over there. There are some other faults in the reservoir area as well. So let us know a bit about the background of this project. Now the CWE Investment Corporation, which is a subsidiary of Chinese Three Gorges Corporation, Three Gorges, very big company, very big corporation of China, Three Gorges Corporation. It's a subsidiary, CWE, of Three Gorges only, and they ended their project pursuance in 2018, saying that it's financially unfeasible and its resettlement and rehabilitation cost were too high. And the Snowy Mountain Engineering Corporation, this belongs to Australia, it had been refused a renewal of its license following that its performance was inconvenient. It wasn't convincing enough, and convincingly it did not perform because Australian company had a pure decade to work over it from till the 1990s, and they did not do so. And now India has come into the picture. Now, if we talk about India's role, India's National Hydropower Corporation already began the preliminary engagement trying to prepare the detailed project report. And since India was Nepal's, one of the reasons I told you why Nepal is saying that we better give this project to India, because when it comes to India and Nepal's relation, India was Nepal's power market, is Nepal's power market. It had a policy. India has a policy that we will not at all buy any sort of power from Nepal if that project has been developed by China. So it's better to give this project to India. The investment board, now it is likely to clear it soon and formally ask the NHPC to handle the project. The investment board is headed by the Prime Minister himself. So we are seeing a sort of a green light over here. Now, if we talk about India and Nepal's power project, this is purely data based. 6,000 rivers Nepal has. It has an estimated potential for 83,000 megawatt of power. It's a feasible market for Nepal and India's. One thing is first, with respect to India, that we have to know that for power, India is a very huge market for Nepal and India, but it's overshadowed by certain things because India has in certain period in the past, it was unable, its inability to deliver projects on time. Like the Mahakali Treaty, it was signed back in 1996 in order to provide 6,480 megawatt of project. It is still not implemented well enough. The Upper Karnali project, for which the multinational GMR signed the contract, has not made any headway for years. So these are the certain things, but the positive is the Arun 3 project in eastern Nepal's Sakhua sector, Sabha, Satluj. It is done by Satluj, this is India's Satluj Vidyut Nigam under a build, own, operate and transfer scheme. So it was formally established in 2018. The year of completion is projected to be 2023. So let me just talk about in brief about the build, own, operate and transfer scheme. This is basically for large infrastructure project. It is involving two sectors, private sector and public sector. So private sector gets into a contract with the public sector like the government, and the government provides a limited funding to private sector. Now the private sector or private corporation has to bear all the risk with respect to building, maintenance and survival of the project they are pursuing, and the developer, the private sector, can charge a minimum or whatever cost they would like to make up for the investment they are doing by the users of that project. Okay, and after a period of time it is transferred to the government. So this is build, own, operate and transfer. It can also be it is also known as build, operate and transfer mode. Okay, and the company executing the Arun 3 is also being awarded the 695 megawatt Arun 4 project. Now this is followed by the decision to award West Seti to NHPC. Now estimated cost of to cost Nepali rupees $104 billion. The project is envisaged to provide Nepal 31.9 electricity free. Besides, locals affected by the project are being given a share of Nepali rupees 10 million plus 30 units of electricity per month free. But what about the rehabilitation cost, the environmental cost and the disasters with respect to tectonic activity that still needs to be addressed. If we talk about diplomatic relation, the basis of the diplomatic relation between India and Nepal is of course the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1950, which gives a huge cultural, historical and diplomatic as well as personal boost to India and Nepal's relation. Nepal has a very special significance in the Look East and Act East policy of India, along with the cultural common ground of Hinduism and Buddhism. We share that a lot. India's relation with Nepal, although have witnessed certain lows, especially when we talk about the previous Prime Minister of Nepal, who was under a huge influence of the Communist Party of China. Because of the unofficial blockade of India that India did in 2015, because certain concerns of India with respect to Nepal's constitution was not addressed, Nepalese did not see India as an actual friend after that. Although Nepal after that signed up to China's, and this is for 2017, China's Belt and Road Initiative, which India sees as an intrusion to the sovereignty of India because it passes through the Pakistan illegally occupied territory of India, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, now Ladakh. In 2019, Nepal released a new political map in which it showed that the regions that actually belong to India, Kalapani, Lipu Lake and Limpia-Dhura, it was shown in the map of China. After that, it was very low. The relations became too low. Now they have started gathering a new era, a new revolutionary era can be seen between the relationship of India and China after certain lows. Now, one thing that we have to keep in mind, every relationship has a challenge. Our challenge with Nepal is first, of course, the geographical issues and disputes with respect to Kalapani, Limpia-Dhura, Lipu Lake. Secondly, the role of China. See, smaller countries have a lot of risk of getting their governments involved and their sovereignty intruded by bigger governments, be it China or India. But we want a country that respects, we want a country to be our neighbor that respects the sovereignty of each and every country, not only ours. So China's influence is such that it wants to gather more and more territories, be it India's territory or Nepal's territory. It has done India as well as Nepal. It shows the Arunachal Pradesh as southern Tibet. So that is something that is not sits well with India. India's ability to make most of the time period with respect to frames for completing project, it is something that India, this obnoxious reputation India has gained not only in Nepal but also in Iran with respect to Chabahar project, the second part of it. So something that we have to keep in mind, we have to respect the time that is given to us. We have to make sure that we complete our projects on time. Okay, moving on, if we talk about way forward, we first of all, both the countries should avoid hyper-nationalism and trying to build their own domestic image at the cost of international relations. Quiet dialogue is very important and not just rhetorics. Rhetorics never work, war never works, even if it's just word war. So people to people engagement, bureaucratic engagement, political interactions are very important to keep in mind that Nepal is a very good friend of India. The power trade agreement, it needs to be such that India can build trust in Nepal, completing the projects on time, rehabilitating the people on time, giving enough time to Nepal as well to actually ensure that next projects are in line with India's timeline. The bilateral investment promotion and protection agreement, it was signed between India and Nepal. It needs to get more attention from Nepal's side. Another very important thing that India has to keep in mind is that we do not always need to see Nepal from our perspective, as in not only a buffer state. It's not a buffer state, it is India's friend. It is providing so much to India with respect to a cultural bond, with respect to having a ground for India to invest in. Not only that, but many other things. If we are able to capitalize on our relationship with Nepal, many other organizations that we are sharing with Nepal, they can move ahead, right? So we have to make sure that we as a country, as a bigger country, should be a benevolent brother, okay, and not a bully like China. Moving on, if we talk about the question, okay, one more thing, please do not write such things because this is just in common parlance that I'm using, but try to be as formal as possible in your mains answer writing. So let us look at our question. This is for pre, okay? After I read out this question, I would like you to answer the correct answer. And of course, I would take the names of those who have answered my last question correctly, okay? So consider the following statements. The value of Indo-Sri Lanka trade has consistently increased in the last decade. Textile and textile articles constitute an important item of trade between India and Bangladesh. In the last 5 years, Nepal has been the largest trading partner in South Asia. So we have to select the correct answer over here. Just bear with me a moment, and if you did not answer the last question, you can move on. And for those who have answered and want to listen to their names, kindly stay involved. So yes, this was a question about the WTO's building. Many of you have answered it correctly. I'm taking the names of those who have done it. Puneet has answered it correctly. Then Abhay has written WTO Geneva building. No, you have to tell the name as well. Okay. And then Medha has answered it correctly. Divya Jyoti has answered it correctly. Sanskar has answered it correctly. And Plato, I don't know if it's your real name. You have answered it correctly. Pallavi Jangir has answered it correctly. Okay, Khushbu has answered it correctly. Kajal has answered it correctly. Then Tanmay, you have answered the question which I asked you. It was an informal question with respect to the number of members in WTO. You have answered it correctly. And Ashu has answered it correctly. Madhusudan has answered it correctly. And Aditya has answered it correctly. Umesh has answered it correctly. Then Megha has answered it correctly, and Alok. Thank you so much for answering this question correctly, that question correctly. Answer this question as well, okay? So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated. Thank you so much for watching.